Welcome back, everybody. It's Recruitment Uncensored. We're back, and I've got Gabby on with me today. We've just been putting the world to rights for half an hour, basically, ranting, raving. And let's have some appreciation for the trainers. Get them out, Gabby.
Oh, hang on a minute. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to try and do this. There we go. Woo!
Yeah,
I love you, Mike.
They're good.
Very muddy now, though.
I'm not as impressive. I'm going to try and lift my leg up now. I've got my dunks on, but they're black and white. I've gone with the branding, but they're not exciting. So
hey, it's Nike. It's the Nike squad we're in. I think every time we do a live, we should do like a trainer flash and be like,
yeah,
what are you rocking?
100%.
Let's go.
100%. But if you've joined, today's session isn't about trainers, although that would be a really good theme. I wouldn't mind talking about that for half an hour. Today is about Boolean. So you've seen it coming up at the bottom of the screen, how to use Boolean searching to find candidates. So I knew I had to get Gabby on to talk about this. So she's CEO of Tooled Up Raccoons. I couldn't pronounce that then. So we've got loads of content for you today. We're going to cram in as much as we can. Please use the comments box. Throw any questions at Gabby that you want. Make any comments. Anything we can't answer live, do not worry. We'll do it after. So throw anything in there that you want to us, and we will answer it for you. So let's get started. So I'm actually going to use a new tool today, and this was Gabby's idea. If you see this come up on the screen, guys, I'm not being a bitch to Gabby. I'm just trying to tell her to shut up so we can move on. So it's a new little tool. I'm going to see if it works with the guests. But let's get cracking. So I know we've got loads to talk about. Let's start with this bad boy. So why do people avoid Boolean searching? Where does it come from?
I think it's there's so many people, when you walk through your life of recruitment, right? When you first fall into recruitment, you'll hear a lot of people talking about Boolean, and they make it sound really, really bloody complicated, right? Really hard. They're like, oh, the best sources use it. And then you start Googling it, and it's all a bit mathsy, and people start freaking out. They're like, well, I don't like maths. What am I doing? Why would you make me do it? And then all of a sudden we go from, it sounds really hard, to, well, it's hard, but I don't need to learn it because this platform does it for me. This platform will do the search for me. I don't need.
I'll just use the tab.
Exactly. It's that I don't need to learn something hard because something else will do it for me mentality. And the problem is with that, when you fall into that mentality, you become really complacent in your searches before you even get going. But you also have these teams, right? These management teams who started these businesses kind of 20, 30, 40 years ago. Very, very big, very successful, all very shiny. And they've never had to use Boolean because back when dinosaurs roamed the world, they were being sent CVs via, like, in the post, right?
Yeah.
Where fast forward today, if someone sent you a CV in the post, you'd probably be like, are you feeling all right? Like, what are you doing?
I'd be quite impressed. I'd be like, fair play, you're standing out, but that's a lot of effort.
There's a lot of effort. You're still being rejected.
It send it special delivery as well, because if you're doing second class,
I know, you'll be bankrupt before you even get going. I mean, that's commitment, right? Just paying for the postage stamp is commitment. But the point is, those people are like, well, I never needed Boolean. I didn't need this because this is how the way things were done. The problem is when you fast forward to today in the world we live in, candidates are online. I mean, it'd be funny to see if anyone on here has recently received a CV by post, but they're all online. I mean, LinkedIn right now is sitting at 1 billion users. That is 1 billion people sitting on a platform. And if you aren't using Boolean to search for them, you are becoming complacent. But your management aren't forcing you to understand Boolean as a critical part.
Or training them to use it. They don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do. So it's kind of like the blind leading the blind, but the world has moved on. And those businesses are like, oh, finding candidates is so hard and so time consuming. It's like, yes, because you're doing it by carrier pigeon. Like, stop being a plonker. You're making your life harder than it needs to be. So the senior management need to step up and realize that the world has moved on and they need to be better. But the people in the team also need to sit there and go, do you know what? Boolean does feel hard. It does feel hard. It's not going to feel easy because it's not something you're brought up around. But the difference is if you can actually learn to hunt more effectively through the huge data sets that you have in front of you, your life just became 20 million times easier because you're going in, you're finding what you want, and Boolean allows you that flex. It's really powerful if you can embrace it and get excited about it. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand it. We were laughing earlier, right? If you understand and or not, brackets and quotation marks, you can build a bloody string in seconds.
And you've just reminded me, actually, I'm going to put that blog that you mentioned earlier in the chat for everybody.
Yep.
Because it's that anyone can use Boolean blog you're on about, because this just simplify. I know we're going to go over it today, but for anybody watching that wants to read it after, it's a fantastic blog to go through. So I've just literally put that in the chat. Hi to everybody watching. We've had lots of people say hi in the chat. And we've got Vanessa watching as well. I had Vanessa on as a guest back in October, and actually it's just reminded me she was saying about people have got to think outside the box. And I think I hear a lot as a trainer, and you probably hear it as well. Oh, I just can't find any candidates. And it's like, but other than the normal things that you do, have you thought outside of that? And it sounds nuts to say that Boolean is outside the box, because really it shouldn't be.
No.
But, you know, you've got a tool here that you can use to really, and the word you're using that I love for this is hunt. Yeah. You've got to hunt people down. You've got to find people.
But I think what's interesting, though, when you tell people to think outside the box, there was a particular client of ours that kept saying it to one of their newbies. It was like, think outside the box, think outside the box. And they were literally sitting there going, what does that mean? What does that actually mean in reality? And I went through this process with them, and I was like, okay, so when you get a job description onto your desk, the first thing you do is probably what you should be doing is look at the keywords. So like, what's the job title? What are the key requirements? And what I did when I was first learning how to kind of use Boolean was I got a job description, I stripped it naked. Like I literally only left the keywords, because honestly, all the rest of it is utter garbage and no one cares. They're like, be a nice person, right? I mean, come on, we should be nice people anyway. We don't need it on a CV or on a job description. Stripped it out, got left with the buzzwords. Then what you find is people then go, okay, cool, I've got my buzzwords. I'm going to put it into my Boolean string. Okay, that's just step one. Okay, when we're talking about thinking outside of the box, and I know I'm getting really excited and probably progressing into some of the questions we're going to answer in a minute. I didn't warn you I get excited.
God.
It's about back and going, okay, cool. Well, that's the job title that hiring manager used. What other job titles could someone use?
I used to enjoy this bit.
Yeah, I love it, because it's like human nature. What else could this human have done or called themselves? And I know there's probably some people listening here, especially because we're on LinkedIn, right, being like, well, the filter has that little funny, whatever, what they called, you know, like it looks like a
drop-down options.
Like a drop-down option. And then it's got this, included in that is 40 variations of the same title, right? Honestly, that brings me out in hives when people use that, because what people often don't realize is in platforms like your LinkedIn's, your job boards, etc., you can write your job title and describe yourself in any way possible, right?
I always people really do.
And they really
look at the recruitment world. People who call themselves sourcing wizards and
God, don't know. I was a chief executive raccoon for a while just for the fun. I mean, it was brilliant because I didn't get any sales emails. No one found me.
Imagine somebody trying to find you.
No one can find me. And I think if I ever got sales email, I was like, sold, you can have my millions because you clearly hunted me down. But what's interesting is you have this situation where, because you're allowing everybody on the internet to write in whatever way they want, platforms aren't able to categorize everyone. So those filters that you lean on are relying on the piece of technology to go, oh, you're VP of sales, but you've written sales of something vice president.
It means different things in different businesses as well. Oh, yeah. So that's what you've got to watch out for, because a sales director in one business might mean something different. Do you know what I mean? It's the skills and responsibilities could be different. So
and this,
yeah, you've got to
outside the box, right? This is when people say to you about candidate searching, it's looking outside the box. What other ways could someone describe themselves? I mean, we even laugh about simple things like the word coordinate with a hyphen, without a hyphen, with a space. It's 3 different ways one word can be written, but your filters will only accommodate for one of those variations because it doesn't think outside the box. A filter is very absolute. So when people go, oh, well, I use a filter, I always look at them and go, well, that's nice, but you're basically just hunting on what the hiring manager vomited at you. You need to be thinking about how your candidates would have described themselves and use a very simple technique, which is Boolean. It is simple. I promise you, it's not hard. If I can grasp it, I mean, seriously, people look at me and they go, you must be so clever. I'm really not.
And listen, when I started in recruitment at the age of 22, I managed to grasp it. And if you'd have known me then, you'd be like, bloody hell.
Gold medal
Well
received.
done.
I think that's the thing when we ask the question, why do people avoid Boolean searching? Because they feel like it's super hard. They feel like it's really complicated. They feel like it's
Confidence.
something outside their grasp. And then what they do is they then cut corners. So there's the other article that I shared with you about, I took one job on the internet. I'm this cool person. I took one role on the internet and was like, I'm going to take the key information, I'm going to pump it through loads of different Boolean builders. I even used our BFF ChatGPT to build it. Honestly, I was really underwhelmed because all it was the Boolean string was just like, oh, those are the words I gave you. And it's like, well, no wonder I'm
getting that blog actually in the chat for everybody, because that's a really good one for everyone to look at.
People get frustrated with Boolean because they don't see the results they expect to see, despite crazy maniacs like me and Vanessa telling them they're going to see better results. But when you use technology to help you build strings, you have to sit there and go, did it just vomit the hiring manager buzzwords back at me? Or did it go deeper to how candidates talk? And did it go outside the box? If you didn't go outside the box, no wonder your search isn't getting smarter. So Boolean isn't the problem. Boolean is a fantastic technique that needs to be done by every recruiter in this world. It's the platforms you're using and the mechanisms you're using it to think outside the box and to really dig deeper into the searches you're doing. I hope that wasn't too exciting. I just use Boolean.
We've had a really meaty question come in, which, Michael, I'm going to put it on the screen, but we're going to come back to either later or after, because I know that if I get Gabby going on this one, we could take up the whole rest of the show and I just won't get the rest of the questions covered off. So we will come back. We won't ignore the question. It's there on the event. We'll come back to it. But good question. I like that one. Okay, let's go to the next one then, because I think this is going to, for the people that are the non-believers, remember we were laughing at that before, weren't we? People that don't believe in Boolean. For the non-believers, let's talk about what are the benefits of using it. There's loads.
Well, there's literally loads. So I think maybe I'm going to have to kind of refine myself.
I'll be using this, I think.
Yes, you will absolutely use the Gabby shut up button. And I love that I suggested it. Like, I'm my own worst enemy. So the benefits of using Boolean is, we kind of touched on it, to be fair, as we were jumping around on the first topic about why people aren't using it. But the real joy of using something like Boolean means that when you go into a platform, whether it's a job board, whether it's your CRM, etc., if there is information in that platform that hasn't been categorized correctly, which, let's be honest, most of our CRMs are not clean. Let's all say it. We can all say it out loud. It's okay. We all do it. Using Boolean allows you
I was a CRM freak. I'm sorry. I did.
Oh, no,
everything was fit. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm one of those people. I love it.
You're out. So you're the exception to the rule. Like, even I laughed at my CRM earlier. I was like, I thought I kept mine up to date, and then I was like, oh, it's missing a note. But the point is when you have platforms with huge volumes of data in them, using Boolean is the only technique that is actually transferable between a job board, between a CRM, between your ATS, between your social media. Even Twitter accepts Boolean in their advanced search field. Oh yeah, I found the advanced search section in Twitter. It's not easy to find. I found it, and you can put Boolean in it. Like, and or not. It's not X-ray searching, none of that sexy stuff, because that is a little bit more complicated. And I will certainly leave Vanessa to overdose on the X-ray world. But in platform searching is so simple, but so effective to hunt through huge data sets that aren't necessarily put into neat little categories. And if you think about that, going back to where we were to the beginning of this conversation, candidates can write whatever the hell they like, whatever the hell they like in their profiles. So you cannot lean on filters to find the data. So you're going to find people that you wouldn't find naturally on a filter. You're going to find them quicker, right? Yeah. Because if you build a string, let's say I built a Boolean string to put into LinkedIn Recruiter, and then I went over Total Jobs, and then I went over to Zoho. Zoho's our CRM that we use. I could take one Boolean string and just make minor tweaks to accommodate for character limits, etc. I've built one search I know is clean, and I've dumped it into 3 different platforms and run a search.
Yeah.
That kind of efficiency. Think about how many times you go into a new platform and go, right, what filters do I need to run? Oh, now I have to
Yeah.
go on and do this again.
Which aren't even effective,
They
as
aren't
we've
even
already
effective.
spoken
They've
about.
never been effective. Anyone who tells you a filter is effective, unless it's an absolute number, I'm being careful how I say this, unless it's an absolute number. So for example, like years experience or years in a company, like those filters are very, they started here, they finished here. It's an absolute figure. Those filters I'm okay with. Anything else, if the platform allows you to use Boolean and use it and hunt for what you want, rather than allowing the platform to vomit what it thinks you want to see. It just
We've had a really good question come in actually, which relates to this. I can't, for some reason, it's not showing me, it just says LinkedIn user. So I'm really sorry because I don't know who's put it in there. But what platforms would you say, you've said there's multiple platforms we can use it on. What would you say is the best to use Boolean on, if there is a best, you know?
I think, to be honest with you, to answer that question, it would depend on the industry, the sector, the specialization you're in, because the most important thing is whatever technology you buy, any technology, you should be always asking the question, what fields can I use Boolean in? And are there any limitations to it? Okay, so for LinkedIn, for example, if we go for LinkedIn Recruiter, the big singing, dancing, whatever, I can put Boolean in the job title, the keyword section, and the company section. Okay, I can do 2,000 characters on job title, 4,000 on the other two. Huge. Go down to Sales Navigator, I can use Boolean in those fields, but I'm down to 15 operators, so 15 ands, alls, or not. So the potential of where my string can go is huge, absolutely humongous. You could go onto platforms like your CV libraries, your total jobs. I mean, total jobs has 2 fields at the minute you can put Boolean in. They're 2,000 characters a piece. So it isn't necessarily there is a better platform than another platform. It depends where your candidates are that determine what the best platform is for you to go searching in. And then it's understanding the Boolean limitations of that platform so you can get the best out of it and work within their parameters. Does that make sense?
Can you use it on things like Facebook?
You
I know you
can.
said Twitter.
You can use, well, Twitter is very explicit that you can use it and it's very, very long. You can use it inside Facebook, but again, you have to use like anchors to be like, what section of Facebook do you want it to look through, etc. So, I mean, I know someone, I actually have a client of ours at Tool.Raccoons who's used our builder and he's used it to go into eBay to find products. So what he did was like, well, so
maybe I could use it to find trainers.
Honestly, so typos. So typos are a wicked piece on this, right? So when people put ads up on eBay, all this kind of great stuff, and they write in a description of what the product is, if they write a typo or write something combining 2 words that could be separated or whatever it may be, if it doesn't hit the normal conforming search, it won't appear. So this person actually used our product to create a search to put into eBay to find things and get it for cheaper because no one else was bidding on it because no one else was finding it.
That's a good idea.
Really
that
clever.
Is thinking outside the box.
That's thinking outside the box. But the question around what platform you say is best for you, Boolean, it's honestly, you can message, come and connect with me afterwards privately if you want to grab 15 and we'll chat about what you do for a living and we can chat about where it means. But it's understanding the limitations of the product. The platform you're about to go on, what can and can't it do? So like CV libraries, one-liner. Honestly, it drives me schizophrenic that it's like, put one-liner Boolean. It's like, well, I want job titles. I want to know key skills. I want to be more focused and honed in on it. Again, that's how I hunt. But it's understanding its limitations, and that's I'd never go, this is where you need to go. It's not up to me to shout that. Does that help? That helps.
Let's go to, again, last question. I think it's going to be super beneficial for everybody watching, which are what are some key strategies to improve Boolean building? Because there will be a lot of people watching that maybe are, we were talking about the like not knowing what to do, the confidence level. So this is going to be, really beneficial for everybody.
So the key strategies for it is really, if you are sitting there and you're listening to this going, Gabs, I really want to do Boolean. Like, I know I really need to do it, but I'm scared, is looking at technology that can help you. Okay, you're incredibly time scarce. Every recruiter I know and I speak to is like, I'm running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm being pulled in 1,000,000 different directions. So what I always say is if you need help building your Boolean strings and you don't want to build them from scratch, because I don't even build my own Boolean strings from scratch, right? I use our tech to do it, is find a technology platform that helps you build really good.
That's the key word there.
right, really good. And I mean good, like the blog post that you've shared has 6 examples of the difference between different outputs on 6 different builders, okay? But it's being able
Yes,
to look at
definitely go on that link, everybody
it.
watching, because it's going to be really helpful.
It's just interesting seeing the difference, because I think many people who are like, oh, I want to use Boolean, will go over to your chat GPTs, we'll go over to a couple of your freebies and build a very basic string. But the point is, when it comes to building it, if you don't want to sit there and Google all the variations of all the words and try and come up with it, you need a piece of technology that can help you put it on steroids, so that you can almost sit there as like a teacher and red mark it and go, well, actually, you've suggested this and I don't need this, and make your life easy. Okay. So I think that's always number one. I think number two is, not as much as I've said, use technology to help you. The other bit you need to do is understand Boolean. Okay. I'm not sitting here going, you need to understand it to go and build it from scratch. What I'm saying is understand the fundamentals of why things happen. So if you put a Boolean string into a LinkedIn recruiter and you include A, B, and C information, why did it bring you back the results that it brought you back? Is there something you could have done?
I suppose you won't know what good is, will you? If you don't understand the purpose and what it should be, like what should be the outcome, then you won't know the difference between shit outcome or a good, like you just won't know. So that's important.
That's the danger, because I think there's so many people who are like, oh, just use this and use that and use the other. And I remember I was talking to Vanessa about this for hours and hours, is when we started the tech company, we actually embedded an academy. And everyone looked at us and went, well, you're a SaaS company. Why do you care? And I was like, because if you don't understand the fundamentals about why things are happening, how could you possibly get any more curious or think outside the box any further? Because you're reliant on someone or a piece of technology going, oh, this is your results, right? You don't understand. And you don't know how to push and pull. And I think this is the interesting thing when you're searching online and you're using Boolean. A lot of people are like, well, I built one string and I put it in a search and that's the best I need to do. But it isn't, because candidates, people are like, well, if they don't include all these buzzwords, all of them together, then I don't want to know them. That's not realistic, because there are some industries and sectors where your profiles are incredibly light. So I used to work in finance. So I used to work at JP Morgan. And we weren't really allowed to have big, sexy profiles on LinkedIn. So it was kind of like 1 or 2 buzzwords. So if your Boolean string is too intense, you're going to miss them. So you need to understand the fundamentals of Boolean, understand how to think outside the box. So typos, spelling mistakes, hyphenations, languages. Languages are a brilliant one, right? Just because you've written your string in English doesn't mean the person you're looking for someone in Germany, their profile might be in their native language. But you need to understand all these pieces of the puzzle, so that when you use a piece of technology that helps you build your string and run your searches, you're still in control. Does that make sense? Like you're in control of that rather than
the key thing I think you've said there is use it to help.
Yeah.
Not do it all for you. You use it to help. And like you say, to know if the outcome is good, because a lot of people, and you probably hear it as much as I do, is like, oh yeah, I'll just get that piece of text to do it all for me. But you don't really understand. This is all taking me back to when I first started in recruitment, because Boolean was all we had to kind of find people. And it's reminding me of, and I enjoyed this bit, they're playing around with it and like, oh, I wonder if that'll find somebody and this will find somebody. Like, that's surely the fun of hunting. That's that feeling when you find that candidate and you're like, yes, yeah.
The thing is, though, the problem we have right now is that I love a hunt, okay? And people are like, oh, well, it takes time. I'm going to have to faff and play around. Another one of these resistance things, being like, oh, I have to play, I have to do this. But you have to remember, okay, if you've got a job today and you build a search and you build the ultimate search, if that job lands again in the future, what string are you going to go and use? You're going to go and use the string that found you the candidate for the last job. So your whole process is
speed a Word document with all my best ones saved, because I worked, a niche desk, so I knew what I was always going to be looking for, and I'd save them so I could go back in and just copy and paste if it was a good one.
Say is
this was years ago, mind. This was like 11 years.
Just be careful where you store your Boolean strings, okay? So things like Word documents have funny formatting on their quotation marks. There's 2 types of quotation marks, straight and curved. This curved is not Boolean. So when you input that into a platform, it kind of goes, what are you doing? I don't understand. It has to be straight quotation. So just That's specific to Word, but be careful on different platforms that you're
Where would
saving.
you put it? Where do you think is the safest place?
In tool.raccoons. Honestly, that's what we do. Honestly, people are like, why did you create the
Well,
platform?
it's funny you should say that.
There's a problem. But honestly, the technology was designed, like my husband's been in recruitment since 2010. He literally came out of university, went straight into recruitment, did sourcing, does the works. And everything we designed and the technology was because we were like, oh, this is making Boolean really slow, or it's making it really boring, or it's making it really tedious, whatever, fill in the gap of the pain point we felt. And we're just like, right, well, if we do all of this, problem solved, Merry Christmas. But the thing that's really interesting for me is when people say the technology does it for me, okay, I just want to hunker in on this point for a second, okay? If the technology is doing it all for you, and your competitor next door is on the same technology,
Mm-hmm.
woohoo, we're both seeing
Guess
the same
what?
candidates. And then guess what happens? You both then message the same candidates at the same time. You then both have the same problem because the candidate's like, oh, I've just been abused by like 10, 50, 100 recruiters. I don't want to talk to anyone. So by you having identical searches to your neighbor next door means that actually you're not getting any competitive edge. Using a filter is not going to give you a competitive edge. Building exactly the same outcome because the technology did it for you is not going to give you a competitive edge. So in actual fact, you're making your life 10, 20 times harder than it needs to be. And I'm going to be quiet for like 10 seconds.
So I'm going to do, we've got a top tip. So I'm going to do a roundup of the next show. I'm going to come back to you, Gabby. One thing I'll say, we've got some great questions and comments in the box, and we're short on time. So I promise you, afterwards, me and Gabby will be jumping into the chat and we'll be typing away and covering it off. But let's do a roundup. So my next show, I'm just looking down at my little notes slyly there. 7th of Feb, 12:30 normal time. I've got Andy Dunn coming on from Team. It's going to be a great show, and we're going to be talking about how to build a network. So recruitment networking. Like, it's so invaluable. A lot of us don't do it, hiding behind our computers a lot at the moment, but actually it brings a shitload of value. So we are going to be talking all about that. So keep your eyes peeled for the event. That'll be on, I'll say it again, 7th Feb, 12:30. So I'm going to come back to you now, Gabby, for your top tip. And we were having a laugh with this one, weren't we, before we went live? What is it?
Just use it. Honestly, I hear so many people make every excuse under the sun to not do it. In this session today and the blogs we've shared, it couldn't be any easier to use it. I joked with someone the other day, I think it should be a sackable offense not using Boolean because it's slowing you down. You're making your life harder than it needs to be. And I could sit on this call for 3 million hours debating why every recruiter on this planet should be using it. But there's no excuse. Just use it. Hunt through those huge data sets. Get that speed and accuracy to your hunt. Get on, fill the roles, and move on to the next position. That's what you're there to do. You're not there like, if you don't find the candidates, the whole recruitment cycle's over. Get Boolean, get it under your belt, understand it, and bloody just use the thing. And then come and get.
Do you know what as well? You're future proofing as well. If you do a great Boolean search, you get some great candidates. You're building up your talent pool. It's not just a now transaction in the moment. This is future proofing your desk.
100%. You want to be inefficient? Stick with filters. You want to be the best and hunt and compete? Use Boolean. There's no doubt about it. And those billions of people we were talking about earlier, 1 billion people sitting on LinkedIn, honestly, that number's only going to get higher and higher and higher. Do you want to be the last one to realize how to hunt efficiently through that data, or do you want to be the first person? I'd rather be here on ground zero on hunting than be the last one to realize when you're like, oh, everyone's beat me. Let's not be beaten.
No. I probably could have done an hour-long show on this today. So if you're watching, if you're not connected to Gabby already, you should be. So go into the event and connect with her. We're going to come on the chat after. We'll answer any questions. But anything that you really want to speak in more detail about, reach out to Gabby. There's 2 blogs I've put in the chat. I will go back in and make sure they're reposted because I know a couple of people have said, where are they? They might have disappeared. So I'll go back in. But reach out to her, follow her content, book in a chat. You know, anything that's opened up, you know, some questions for you today, reach out to her, not me, because I'm not in any shape or form the expert on Boolean. So yes, Sam, Gabby, you can learn more. So connect with her, honestly. And I know, Sam, I can pass you details for
yeah, come and hunt
Gabby
me
as well,
down.
so.
Honestly, I'm always here to help. Any questions, just throw them at me and I'll help as much as I can.
But we've literally run out of time. So to everybody watching and that got involved, thank you so much. You can watch this back on my YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch for the tips, do so. But I'll be back on the 7th with Andy Dunn. And yeah, thank you for watching, everybody. And thanks, Gabby, for coming on. This has been amazing.
Well, thanks for being brave enough to have me.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.